Vegas Bad Boy of Podcasting is an entertainment-based program. The opinions shared are that of the host and their guest. Some celebrity voices are impersonated and usually not well. This program is not intended for kids and certain adults. Listeners' discretion is advised. You have been warned. Now let's get ready to podcast. This is a special edition with our guest, Vampiro. Welcome to another edition of Vegas BadBoyz of Podcasting. I'm your host, DJ Impact, and I got some of the bad boys here with me, like Simon Street. How you doing?
I am doing freaking fantastic.
Awesome. Sin City Steve.
Well.
Ah, yes. And Matt Michaels.
Hey, what's going on?
You never know what you're going to get from Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I got a special guest with us today, man. Let me just kind of read off pretty much his Twitter. I mean, it sums everything up that he's a part of. A director, wrestler, actor, agent, producer, Krav Maga instructor, musician, punk rocker, guardian angel. He's a father too, PMA, but he's also the owner of Vampiro Pro Wrestling Academy, which is actually opening up on the 1st here in Las Vegas. Vegas BadBoyz welcomes Vampiro. How you doing, man?
I'm fucking awesome, man. How you doing?
And we doing great too, man. Glad to have you with us.
I guess
Thank you.
The first.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay, man. The first congratulations goes out to you for becoming the chapter leader of the Vegas Guardian Angel program, man. That is awesome. How long have you been with the Guardians?
Thank you very much. I've been in the Guardian Angel close to 20 years.
Wow.
It's been a lifelong dream. You know, I've been enamored with the whole thing since I was young, but I'm kind of like an international liaison for them. Everywhere I go in the world, and there's chapters I go and visit and motivate, give classes and all that. But Curtis Lewa, president, founder, Guardian Angels. We've been talking. I'm here in Vegas for about 6 months. I've summed up the situation. I've made some alliances with a lot of groups that work with homeless youth and women who need self-defense training, both mentally and physically. So a lot of things have been in the works over the last 6 months, and I talked to Curtis about it. He knows about it, and it's time for the Guardian Angels to make a stand here in Las Vegas and help people out.
That's amazing.
Awesome. So let's go back a little bit. You've been around wrestling for a long time. And
38 years.
Yeah, I know when the boom was happening.
I think it's 38 years. Yeah, probably 38 or 36. I don't know. Long enough.
Yeah. Well, we'll go back to the late 80s, early 90s there. So, I mean, you know, it's been a crazy journey for you. And when the boom was happening now about 20 years ago, can you see a parallel between what the business was like back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and what's going on now? Does it feel like that vibe is happening again?
I think that period was... I think... I'm not sure. I have to be careful. I don't want to say the wrong thing to offend anybody, but then again, unfortunately, when you're in this kind of industry, you offend somebody anyways. That was not a good time in the industry. That was not a fun time. That was kind of like when the meteor hit the earth, you know, and the dust was settling. There were so many new things happening culturally that I don't think there was a benchmark. I don't think there was a way to compare it, because you can't compare it to the 60s or 70s. It was another monster.
Right.
I think the era that's happening now is 200 million times better and more important. And I think the reason for that is because the fans have a different voice now, and it reminds me so much of the first wave of punk rock when I was growing up with the Sex Pistols and the Clash and Ramones and all that stuff, mid 70s, late 70s. The fans became the musicians because they're the ones who knew what they needed to be said. I almost feel like today the fans and the new generation of independent wrestlers and promoters have found their voice, and it's amazing to see. I think it's going to save this industry.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Vampiro's a deep motherfucker.
Well, speaking of the influences growing up like that, now I was in all honesty right around 5, 6, 7 years old when punk was really booming in the late 70s, early 80s. What was the influence of that music scene on you? Because I know, with all those bands, like they're some of my favorite things in the world, is the Clash and the Ramones and, X. Was that something as a young man that was really kind of capturing your angst at that time?
I grew up in a small town, and my father left when I was really young, and my family was extremely poor. My mom was an orphan, so she was stuck with me and my sisters, and it was a horrible time to grow up. I was so poor. I remember sometimes I couldn't go to school because I didn't have shoes, and I was too embarrassed.
Wow.
I was sexually assaulted when I was younger by a neighbor. I was sexually assaulted. I was so into the church. I was becoming an altar boy, and I had a thought in my head when I was young that maybe the priesthood was a calling. So by the time I was 12, I had all this drama in my life, sexual assaults, my parents being divorced, poverty, basically almost being homeless, just really suffering. But I was a hockey prodigy.
Yeah.
So I was being looked at, I was being scouted by pro teams when I was like 11 and 12. So all this stuff was happening in my head at the time, and I just couldn't figure it out, and I was getting frustrated. And obviously because of the abuse and trauma that I had, I didn't know what to do. And I was the size I am now. I was kind of that size when I was 12. I was like 6'3". So I was very frustrated, and I was about to explode. And I didn't know what to do. I was starting to hurt myself, and I was starting to think about hurting others. And I was just doing things to lash out, and I was fighting all the time. So I was on a hockey tournament, and one of my teammates was a student athlete that came from Sweden. He was spending time with us, and he was a year and a half older than me. And he told me about this concert that he went to in his hometown, and that was the first time I heard about the Sex Pistols. Just when I heard the name, the Sex Pistols, and then I heard this name, Sid Vicious, and he told me about the spiky hair and the leather jackets, and then I on the news within the same week that's where I first saw the Guardian Angels. Then I first heard the term punk rock.
Yeah.
And there was because it was New York City, the Guardian Angels in the subways, and then it was the birth of hip hop, and disco was very popular at that time. And then all of a sudden they showed CBGBs, and there was the Ramones. So when I saw that, and I was 12 years old, I knew right then and there that I was not going to work a normal job. I was never going to go to school. I took some of my hockey equipment and I sold it, and I ran away from home for a bit. I took off to see the Rolling Stones, and then I came back home, and I ran away that night. I didn't go to do my homework and go to hockey practice because I was getting into the Rolling Stones and all these other crazy bands, and Muddy Waters was playing in my hometown, and I couldn't get into the bar because I was only 12. So I sat outside the windows of the bar, and I listened to Muddy Waters.
Wow.
Then, yeah, so that was happening. Then there was this band from Canada called Teenage Head, and that was our Iggy Pop, New York Dolls, and the Ramones all in one.
Wow.
They were the fucking greatest band. The Ramones and the New York Dolls, I love them, and I will fight you if you speak bad about them, but Teenage Head was 200 million times better.
Wow.
And and I went to see them, and I waited. I was 13. I waited outside the college where they were going to play, and I begged them when they showed up. I said, please, I'll carry all your equipment. I'll do whatever it is. Let me come in and just sit on the stage and watch the show. And I was such a pain in the ass, but at the same time, they loved the energy. And when I saw that was my first moment, my first punk thing, my first anything, and that was it. I fucked up. There was no more school. That was it. And it was a Thursday night. I'll never forget it, because the next night and I got in trouble. I got a detention at school for not doing for whatever the fuck. I came home and there was this TV show called Fridays, and Fridays was shot in Los Angeles.
Yep.
And that was the competition for Saturday Night Live. But the difference with Fridays is they supported alternative music and punk rock.
Yep.
And I will never. I have it bootlegged, and I have it everywhere, and I've got a million versions of it. I taped it. That was the reason I got my first tattoo. My life changed that day, because that was when I saw the Stray Cats live on that show. Nice. And there was the big boom of rockabilly at the end of punk, and I was like, fuck. That was it.
Nice.
That's the story of how I became, I guess, who I am.
Well,
that was it.
That's interesting. For anyone who doesn't know Fridays, you can look up Fridays online and
YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube. Michael Richards, who played Kramer on Seinfeld.
Yep.
That was one of his first things, and the most famous moment of Fridays was Andy Kaufman was on the show, and during a sketch, he literally got up and grabbed the cue cards and threw them down on the table and said he didn't want to be in the sketch. This is stupid. He doesn't do drugs, because they were doing a marijuana high. People were eating high at a restaurant, and it was a ha-ha thing.
It was a zombie skit.
No.
It was a zombie diner, wasn't it?
No, it was a group of friends who were smoking marijuana and went to dinner together.
I remember it, but anyways, sorry to cut.
Yeah.
You just got me all fucking excited.
Yeah, seriously. No, so I know exactly what you're talking about, and you're right. They were one of the only shows that were really going, to show you alternative bands, and that is awesome. That's what influenced you. The second follow-up on that, since you mentioned Stray Cats, are you going to see Brian play here at Green Valley coming up?
More than likely. I mean, I've roadied for different bands throughout my life, and I've seen the Stray Cats and Brian Setzer probably close to 60 times.
Wow.
But of course I will. 100%. He was on the cover of a Guitar Player magazine when I was in high school. I remember it. And this girl that I kind of had a crush on was working in a magazine smoke shop, and she thought I was going to see her, but I was just there begging and pleading that they threw the magazines out, that she would keep that one for me. And it was a Guitar Player. I didn't have the money, and fucking Brian Setzer was on the cover, and I took it to the tattoo shop. I was like 13, I think, and I got a tattoo in honor of Rockabilly and Brian Setzer. That was my first tattoo.
Wow, that's beautiful.
So, Vampiro, this is probably a very good opportunity, out of a lot of these guys, I've never had an opportunity to be formally introduced to punk music, but anytime I've ever talked to anybody, it's always been positive. It's always been up the alley of, just rebel. And that's just spirit-wise for me, speaks to me. But I've never had an opportunity to really talk to somebody that would probably do it justice. Where, if you could suggest a journey for me, myself to really start partaking, but to get the full encompass of what punk music is, what would you suggest?
I don't think I could answer that. Because it's the music is is like the cherry on the cake. I think you have to look at the what's going on at the moment in time where that scene is happening.
Okay.
If you look at the roots of New York punk rock, it happened in the late 60s, early 70s, and it was basically the gay and lesbian community at that time, and transvestite people in the Andy Warhol scene that used to go see the MC5 and the Velvet Underground and the Stooges and then the Dolls. And that's when this is pre-glam rock, so it's not the oi music and the skinhead and the fucking hardcore that you might think is punk rock. If you listen to the New York Dolls, well, that's a rockabilly band playing with distortion. It's just Chuck Berry music. So, and they dressed like women. That was their deal, right? So, what is punk rock music? Punk rock music is a lifestyle. It's an attitude. It's a commitment to what you believe on the inside. If you follow what punk rock is turning out to be, and you look at all these kids that put on a uniform and they think that's punk rock, that's not it. Punk rock is pretty much just another word for you standing up for what you believe in and not faltering and just telling the truth with authenticity and transparency. That, my friend, is the essence of punk rock.
Thank you. I'll definitely take that to heart.
Well, you better, motherfucker. 'Cause I'm not,
and and what's really funny too, I always, the New York Dolls, the thing I loved about them was they captured this beautiful time period, and then here it is, I'm about 12 years old when Buster Poindexter came out. And, it's like, here you had David Johansen change from New York Dolls to this totally different persona. And then he gets a chance to be an actor. And he, went through all these different phases of his career. And he became a chameleon. And that's kind of what you ended up doing, because you've had so much different, experiences from, like you said, being a hockey protege to, a bodyguard for Milli Vanilli. Like,
yes, sir.
What the hell was that like, brother?
Wow.
Well, that was a great education. That was a great education. I was 19, I think. 18 or 19.
Wow.
And I was working in a bar that was owned or promoted by Mickey Rourke and Billy Idol in Los Angeles. And I got to work the VIP room because, I had that look, I had the Billy Idol hair and I was, tattooed. And that's when the movie The Lost Boys and all the, Guns N' Roses and LA Guns and Faster Pussycat and all these, and then Steve Jones became friends with Mickey Rourke and they started riding Harleys. So that whole thing, and there was me right in the middle of it all. And I was house sitting for an actor, Michael Perry.
Yeah.
And his ex-girlfriend, who was a stalker, was the manager of Milli Vanilli.
Wow.
So in order to get in good with Michael, she offered me a job to do the MTV tour with Milli Vanilli. And it was Milli Vanilli and New Kids on the Block, Paula Abdul, Lisa and the Cult Jam, and Marky Mark, and Tone Loc.
Yeah.
And that was so. I said, it's going to pay me 3 times as much as I'm making standing here in this bar, and I get to see the United States. So I said, hell yeah! So I took that job, and the first show was in Bakersfield.
Wow.
It was a warm up to the tour, and I showed up. And I said, who the fuck is Milli Vanilli? Because, there was no internet. I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, they have the number one song in the world. And I said, well, not in my world. You better let me hear that. And I saw them on MTV, and I saw them, the braids and the look, and I was like, oh boy, okay. So I went to Bakersfield and I met them. But when I was standing there ready to get introduced as their babysitter, they started arguing. And they were arguing in German and French.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck? Because I didn't know where the fuck they were from. Because everybody thought they were from England. And so I said to the manager, what are they fucking fighting about? He says, I'll ask them. So I asked Rob, rest in peace.
Yeah.
I said, excuse me, my name is, Ian, and this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to be working with you. And they were, oh, hey, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And I said, what's the matter? And I said, I don't know the words in English. And that was the moment I was kind of like, what the fuck is going on? Because you got the number one song in the world and you don't know the words. And you don't speak English. And then Fabrice had this accent, like he was from France. So
France, yeah.
he had this very, very thick accent. And then they went on stage and they did their songs, and the place was fucking crazy. And I was listening to the music because I was in a band in a million bands, and I grew up in the punk scene, and I know what the fuck's going on in a live show. So they're singing, and there's no accents. The English is perfect, and I'm thinking to myself, God damn, these fucking guys are really good at what they do. And the sound man kind of looked up at me and he was like, you don't know what the fuck going on, do you? And I said, no, what's going on? They said they don't sing. and so I thought, okay, they don't sing live because they're dancing, and how the fuck are you going to breathe when you're jumping around like that? Then after about a week and a half, I was like, holy fuck. Not only they don't speak English, how the fuck they singing these songs? Then I kind of got, they did so much drugs and I was with them for so long. It was just the three of us. We lived together. And we toured the world for 2 years almost. And I obviously they told me everything. And it's a pretty heavy duty story. But they told me, the reason that they're running and doing all these tours is because their producer, Frank Farian, if you don't remember the group of Boney M from the disco days, wanted his money. And they were like, we ain't paying him a fucking thing. And he was trying to catch them all over the world. So finally he said, after so much time and fighting and this and that, he says, I'm going to expose the whole thing if you guys don't pay up. And that's kind of what happened. So yeah, being with those dudes was the greatest education because they were A-listers for 2 years. So I got to see behind the scenes of the inner workings of show business.
Yeah. And
that kind of was my security blanket and the reason I was able to survive so long in wrestling, because you want to talk about corruption and stupidity. Well, I had the greatest education in the world.
And speaking of wrestling, how did you segue from that gig to to getting trained and getting into the wrestling business?
I was in the wrestling before that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But the company closed down. When I was 14, I started working, and let's just say I became familiar with international wrestling in Montreal. And that company went out of business. But that I started following them around, learning how to set up the ring, and they would teach me the insides and outs of wrestling. And I was like just turning 15 around there. So that's when I kind of started in the business. When that company closed down, I floated around New York and Los Angeles for a bit. Then I finally made my way down to Mexico, and that's kind of how things went.
Gotcha.
So what drew you to pro wrestling? Was it something that you watched as a kid, or was it something that you stumbled upon while you were out and about?
I watched it when I was a kid because I lived in a town that was on the like about a couple hours from the border of Minnesota. So in Duluth, Minnesota, they always used to have AWA,
Yeah.
and then we would get that TV. So I watched it when I was little, but it really didn't mean anything to me. But when I was going through this insanity, and when I first got introduced to punk rock, and I completely lost it, and I disappointed so many people because I lost interest in sports. And I was one of them Bo Jackson kind of dudes. I was doing every sport.
Yeah.
And I was, scholarship offers and all that kind of stuff. And, being a poor kid, no education, and getting these scholarships off, that was like the hope of the family was going to save the world, right? But when I heard the punk rock thing, and that was my outlet for the anger because nobody knew my inner trauma, I had this huge guilt inside of me. Like, I'm supposed to be an athlete, but I'm in love with alternative music. What do I do? And I won't forget it. I heard the beat of the drum, and I was downstairs in my bedroom, and then I heard the guitar riff for Iron Man. I never fucking heard that music in my life. And I ran upstairs to see what the hell was going on, and it was the AWA. And then all of a sudden the Road Warriors came out, and I was like, holy fuck. What is that? These guys just ran in, they were the biggest guys ever. Punch, clothesline. The match was over. Pick them up over your head, throw them out of the ring, and pose, and then go back to the dress. I was like, what the fuck I just saw? I don't know. But this is how I can do sports and also have my love of alternative music. And I was just daydreaming to make this character and get involved in wrestling, and then I can fulfill my two voids, right? I can mix music with sports and sports with music, and that's kind of how the passion started to grow.
At what point did you come up with the Vampiro character itself?
When I was young, real young, I read the book, the Dracula book, and what I took from the story was just because somebody's different, and people don't, if people don't understand you, they're going to turn on you, right? And Dracula, all he was a guy who believed in love. He was noble, but he had to drink blood to eat, and everybody else didn't, so they killed him. And I understood that he was judged. Of course, it's in my mind at that time. I was like, I'm big. I get picked on at school. People beat me up. I got no family, no money, no nothing. And I'm the outsider, and nobody really knows what's on the inside. So I identified with that character when I was like 9 or 10. And then that was kind of like my secret hero. But when I got to LA, after, doing the thing in Montreal and trying to be Billy Idol in wrestling, that didn't get very far. I bought a book because I had nothing to do, and I bought the Interview with the Vampire. And when I read the Anne Rice book, and I saw this vampire who just wanted to be an entertainer, I was like, that's it.
Yep.
So I guess 1987, right there on the sidewalks of New York City, Los Angeles, actually, Vampiro was born.
That's awesome. And the look of the character, was that something that you came up with in your own mind, or was it something that was influenced by like the Misfits and the punk rock scene?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's Ramones,
Yeah.
and that was the big one with the longer hair. But I was in LA, and when I saw Guns N' Roses and LA Guns, I fell in love with that look.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of it. Then I was also reading about those motherfuckers burning down churches.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that look. So it was a mess of everything. You know what I mean? That's why, a mohawk and all those kind of things with the longer hair. But it was like night and day. I would either do real heavy duty LA street or put on a suit and have the braids because of Milli Vanilli. If anything, that's why I said it was my education. I copied their look and stuff like that for photos and things, and that was the fame of Vampiro. Vampiro wasn't famous for wrestling. Vampiro was famous for the image.
Yeah.
And it was a total ripoff of Milli Vanilli.
That's what an irony too.
Yep.
a band like that, which is accused of being a ripoff because they're not doing live performance and they're not the actual singers on the tracks, and then that leads to you ripping them off. And it's just fascinating how entertainment works like that.
It's weird, huh?
With living in LA at that time, one of my favorite lines from the Tom Petty song "Free Falling" is all the vampires walking through the valley. Was it that feeling that, there was just this subculture of, people who were just out there at that time to just either, party or make a name for themselves? Was it as, kind of as dirty as, the scene kind of, the griminess of LA at that time? Was that there, or is that just kind of this myth of, LA was kind of a dark place?
Both. It was there. But, I did weird things in my life, studied the occult and participated in vampire covens and all that shit. But it was all for my own curiosity, right? I wanted to be educated. In LA at the time, there were secret sex cult type things like fetish clubs,
Right.
and a lot of actors and musicians were involved in that. And it was very vampire oriented.
Yeah.
And that's where the whole thing started, the sexual fantasies of people getting cut and being donors and people faking drinking blood and all that stuff. That was pretty out there. Then there was the other part of it where there were some pretty dark souls that took to the fashion, but drugs and mental illness and dark fantasies. It was intense. It was there for sure.
Did you have any at that time? Did you have any close friends? I mean, you were so young still at this time. Were there any friends that you really made that were solid friends at that time?
No, because when I was younger, and I was, like I said, I went through all that trauma. And I was always alone because we were poor, and I was the bigger kid, so it was really tough for me to make a lot of friends, right? Out of them for whatever reason. So reading the novel about Dracula and understanding, falling in love with that and being a loner and gypsies and my father apparently was Irish and my mom was Ukrainian, so I could just imagine the culture and their families and the whole gypsy lifestyle and not really latching on to somebody. Having acquaintances was quite easy for me to do, and I had a mission in life. My mission in life was to rock the world. You can't have friends and girlfriends and stuff like that when you're on a mission to rock the world. I just knew there was something I was going to do. And I was just living on the street and getting an education and getting ready because I knew when it was my time, I was going to school it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a very accurate description of, kind of that goal and that drive, that clear vision. And that's, I think that's, for those of us who've gone through entertainment and what you kind of crave, it's not close friendships as much as it's, what is my next move? And I think that makes a lot of sense.
So
Yeah, it's a very vampire-y feel,
Yeah.
Everybody's familiar, but nobody's close. Does that make sense?
no, very much crystal.
I hope I'm not fucking this interview up. I know
No,
it's a wrestling
man,
thing.
you are
Okay.
you're being awesome, man. Raw and everything. Speaking of Raw, I wanted to talk about April 11th.
Using lubricants?
Well,
What?
we could talk about that. I think there's some people out there that probably need to be instructed on how to use proper lubricants. But
Yeah, all the new guys in the business, that's lesson number one. Lube up your butt when you go to get paid because the promoter's going to try to
always fuck you. Always.
pay you less.
But everything aside, what I want to talk about next was April 11th. something that you revealed to a lot of people on your Facebook was you had just received the news that you are diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Could you kind of take us through, everything on that date and what was going through your mind and whatnot?
Yeah. Well, I don't have full blown Alzheimer's. I'm in the beginning stages of it because of all my head injuries and things and whatever. So I knew something was wrong with me for a lot of years because after some serious concussions in WCW and after, I started to notice a huge change in me. Antisocial, depression, short-term memory loss, ADD, or just zoning out. And then I wasn't bouncing back. I wasn't recovering like I used to. And then I was extremely agoraphobic. I couldn't be around people. And so I was really depressed because of to make a living, I have to be Vampiro, and Vampiro means being in front of thousands of people every day. And it was I would rather die than go through that again. So it started, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 years ago, I started going through these things. But then over the last 2 years, the stress of work was so brutal. I had a stroke.
Oh wow!
And because I was so frustrated. I was like, why the fuck can I? Like, fans come and ask me for an autograph. I want to kill them. I want to run away and hide. Why can't I remember my daughter's name? Why am I forgetting? It was just so horrible to be. Like, I would walk, and then all of a sudden I would realize I was in a shopping mall, and I would just start to cry because I didn't know why I was there. I would just go to a corner and stand there and hope nobody would notice me. I would just things like that. I didn't know what was going on. I'd go to the supermarket, and I don't remember why I went to buy anything. And then I would leave the supermarket, and for the life of me, I could not remember where my car was. So it started to snowball, and it was kind of like, I'm fucking, something's wrong here. And it just got, the panic attacks were so brutal. And I was under heavy medications, and I was like, this is fucked up, because this is how all my friends died. This is how my coworkers died. This is not right. That's when I had the stroke. So I had to make a decision, because the medicines and treatments that I think and thought I needed were not available in Mexico. And Mexico is advanced in a lot of things, but not for this. Mm-hmm. So being that Las Vegas is the fight capital of the world, and they got doctors here to deal with boxers and MMA and everybody in combat sports who have multiple head injuries, I thought, fuck, I've got to change my life. I got to go somewhere where no one's going to say the word Vampiro. I've got to go somewhere where I just have to be away from everything that I've ever known, because I'm dying. And I was so scared that I was going to die. So I came here, and when I went and got to a certain doctor, he told me that, you're in the beginning stages of Parkinson's, and that's going to happen because of your lifestyle. And Alzheimer's thing, yes, it's coming, but I'm at the exact moment, that last moment, to slow it down to almost to a halt and kind of freeze it, right, so that I don't get any worse. So I've been doing that for the last, serious therapy and treatment and following the rules for the last 6 months, and it's working, and it's amazing, and I'm so grateful. So when I was diagnosed and all that, I just started to laugh, because I was like, now I know, and it's fucking awesome, because I play PlayStation and I don't remember what I just did. So I can play the same game over and over and over, and it's like a new game every time. So I'm not wasting a lot of money. And it's fucking awesome. And I don't remember any of the things that were fucked up in my life. If somebody, when I got divorced, and I know it was a horrible divorce, but I don't even remember it. So I'm not even mad or upset anymore at my ex-wife. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's fucking awesome. So I'm trying to tell the people, especially when I do speeches for the Guardian Angels, or I leave videos or whatever, who the fuck cares if you've got mental health issues, PTSD? like me, or you got memory loss, or you're Parkinson's, or you're Alzheimer's. Who fucking cares? It's not the end of the world. So you forget shit. So you shake. So you're different. Doesn't fucking matter, man. It's all what you got inside your heart and in your mind. You got to understand that it's you who's in control of your emotions, and your emotions are what gives you the quality of life you desire. I mean, I don't have a girlfriend busting my fucking balls every day. I don't have a wife busting my balls every day. Everybody says, how come you don't have a partner? Because I don't fucking need one.
Yeah.
I'm awesome. I got my guitar, I got my PlayStation, I'm involved in sports entertainment, and I'm happy as a motherfucker. So instead of whining and crying and saying, well, I'm sick and I'm getting older and I'm broken and no girls want to be with me, why the fuck do you want to live like that? I am extremely ecstatic for what I have. What I have is my freedom and my spiritual wealth. If you don't have that, you ain't living, brother.
Amen to that.
Amen. Definitely.
Seriously.
You know, it's
I mean, well, and if you have a girlfriend, that's cool too, right? But I just don't fucking want one.
yeah, man. But you know what? Definitely taken from that sentiment of what you're saying. You know, is that some of the inspiration as well for you to be, you know, starting your wrestling academy?
Yeah, I'm a Krav Maga instructor. That's my passion.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing wrestling seminars for 20 years. And I absolutely love teaching. It's spiritually fulfilling. One of my biggest problems in my whole wrestling career is, like, I come from alternative music and things like that and alternative culture, so I'm a creative oriented person. I love to provoke in everything that I do. And when I was in WCW or any of the other bigger companies, you're not allowed to be creative anymore. You have to follow the script and you have to be told what to do. And that's the nature of the beast. I get that, which is why I much prefer indie type stuff, because you can express yourself the way you need to. Mm-hmm. I see all these young talents, and sometimes I watch them indie shows and I'm like, holy shit. It's a fucking horribly, it's the shits. But then I catch myself and I shame on me. It's not the shits. These young men and women need proper guidance. I don't like to say instruction. And in my academy or my school, I'm not a teacher. I'm a guy who's going to share information with you, because you are going to do your own journey. I've already gone there, and I'm still on that path. And what I've realized is anybody who tells you that they're a teacher or they have a wrestling school and they're going to make you a superstar, it's not true. And God bless you and God bless them. And if that's their business, go for it. But these young men and women, and this is what I think is going to be different in mine, is I'm going to be with you side by side. I have a curriculum. There is a formula. But it's like this. You and I are in a kitchen. This is the way I cook these vegetables. Now I want to see what you do with the same ingredients. Make it yours. So that's my role, and I'm really, really, really good at it. And it's inspirational for everybody. So I can't answer you why and how it works. It just does. And it's beautiful. And I'm so excited to be starting this next week.
Well, we're definitely excited as well for you. I mean, especially just off of what you've said. We come into contact with a lot of not just people who are already involved in other schools, but people who ask questions like, you know, I kind of want to get in the business. I just don't know how to do it. And kind of what you're saying is very, very, very comforting to hear, because, you know, it's almost like you want to teach them how to be, you know, cultivators of what's inside, of what they already have. And also as well be constant gardeners as well, so that way as they continue to develop, you know, the information that you're sharing to them, they can take it and make it their own and produce what they want to be. So hearing that, I appreciate hearing that from you.
Thank you. I mean, the wrestling is easy. That's the easiest part, but there's so much. I mean, how to budget your money, what food to eat on the road, where to shop, where to put gas in your car, where to take a rest. You know what I mean? All of these little details, and it sounds like but I'm telling you, if you're going to dedicate yourself and you want to give this a go, you're going to have to understand, how are you going to find a full-time job to support your family that's going to afford you the days off, the day before to drive there to get on time and come back and to work Monday morning 2 hours late because you just drove all night back from a wrestling show? How are you going to find a job and have that support from them? How are you going to explain to your partner that, hey, I love you and I'm working hard and this is going to happen, but there's a lot of weekends I'm not at home. Are you going to be with me on this journey or not? All those little details, for example, you need to say them, and you need to listen to the students ask you questions about it, because that's a huge part of this. It's a huge, huge part. Everybody just thinks hitting the ropes, learning how to take bumps and choreograph is the key. It's not. And there are so many young talents out there who need that guidance, that education, the sharing of knowledge. And that's my goal, is to help find the answers to all the questions they have. That sounds like a good way to put it.
That's a brilliant way to put it. I mean, you said it right then and there. I mean, not just with this industry, but in general, major sports. They're finally in the NFL and the NBA talking about what are ways that when, kids come from college or they're coming in or they've been drafted, how can we teach them life skills so that they can continue living their dream, and you putting it the way you did. I mean, there's definitely, I wouldn't even call it niche. I would say there's been a hole for a very long time to answer those questions, or even, we want to prepare you. Is kind of hear what is what I'm hearing you say. We want to prepare you for the realism of being in this industry and how to prepare for it and how to act accordingly. And those things are hugely important.
I agree, and thank you for saying that. I think I get it from teaching Krav Maga and the Guardian Angels, because in Krav Maga, there's no bullshit. There's no uniform, there's no belts. There are belts, but there's no positioning. It's just, you have to adapt at that moment, and you have to be ready to go preemptive, full out violent to survive a confrontation. So I understand that philosophy. So in wrestling schools, let's cut the bullshit and hitting the ropes and giving a headlock for 6 weeks. Look, motherfucker, let's cut all the shit out. And what the fuck are you here for? Tell me and I'll teach you. Well, I'm too shy. Then put your hands behind your back, tighten up your jaw, and I'm going to smack you in the fucking face. Bam! It's an extreme situation, but hey, that's the way I'm teaching. Now you're not shy. Let's fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this is hardcore. This is real. This isn't no bullshit. And I don't treat students or anything like I'm superior and I hold the secrets. No, man. I used to be in your shoes, and you want to be in my shoes, so let's walk together. What's the hard part there?
I agree.
Yeah, most definitely.
You singing to the choir when you're talking to me about that.
And speaking of real and no bullshit. So obviously, everybody who's a wrestling fan that's followed your career knows about your long-standing feud with Conan. So if you could do me a favor and the listeners a favor, just kind of talk about the roots of your relationship / feud with Conan over the years, and bring everybody up to speed on that might not know.
Okay, it's pretty easy. The feud is totally overblown. It's what wrestling fans and wrestling smart marks like to add fuel to fire. There was a lot of dislike. We're two young guys. We're 21, 22, 23-year-old guys who had a lot of success instantly, a lot of power instantly. We had no adult supervision. We had nobody to tell us, hey, this is the limit. We were two guys that because of our environment that everybody around us who was jealous of us tried to turn us against each other. His outlook on life is a lot different than mine, but at the same time, we're very similar. He's a loner, I'm a loner, and that's the common thread. There was obviously insecurity and jealousy when we were both young growing up. He said, she said kind of stuff, listening to rumors, listening to gossip. But we 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, when we started working in AAA together, he came back, he left, they hired me. I filled a lot of holes that he left when he left, you know what I mean? And we had no choice. We had to have a conversation. And he opened up and he said everything. He didn't hold back, and it was awesome. And I listened, and I kind of did the same thing. And it's basically brought on by insecurities and people saying things just to provoke shit. And sometimes he gets a lot angrier than I do. I just kind of let it go in my ear and out the other. He takes it seriously. So that's kind of all the heat there.
Gotcha.
We're not friends, believe me. It's not like there's no dislike. We just move in different circles. But in the last I talked to him, we're totally cool with each other. We don't phone each other and we don't go to the movies together. But if he was in need and I was the one who had the way to help him, he wouldn't even have to ask. I'd be there.
Definitely, man. Yeah, thank you for setting the record straight on that, for sure.
Yeah, not a problem, dude. Not a problem.
So speaking of your time in WCW, and you were talking about your love of alternative music. There was a mix of the two when the Misfits were a part of WCW programming for a while. If you could just kind of elaborate on how that situation came about.
Yeah, I was a fan, of course, because of who the Misfits are my whole life, right?
Right.
And I was trying to find something to do in WCW because there was no storyline for me. There was nothing going on. And I was like, this is just like getting stale. And that's when I saw the Misfits had a new album out. And it was the Famous Monsters. And I got it and listened to it. And I was looking at their tour dates. And they just happened to be in Minneapolis, across the street from where we were doing Monday Nitro, a month away. So I just had a few beers and got the courage up, and I called the rep and I said, "Hey, I got this idea. I'm this vampire guy, and I'm in wrestling, and I'm a big Misfits fan, and I said, I'd love to know if I can use one of their songs as my intro." And he said, "Okay, I'll call you back." And so like in about an hour and a half, same day, he called me back and he said, "Listen, the guys fucking are crazy happy. They want to meet you. They love wrestling. Jerry wants to, talk to you and all this kind of stuff." And I said, "Well, shit, I'm in Minnesota the same day you guys are." He said, "No, be there at the venue and let's make this happen." He said, and what's your address? And I told him and all this kind of stuff. He sent me the whole fucking Misfit thing, studded jacket, and I was like, "What the fuck?" He says, no, Jerry wants you to do something with the band." And I said, "Okay." So when I went to meet them in the bar, it was at Prince's bar actually, and I said to WCW, I said, "Listen, guys, I got this idea. There's this rock band. They're really famous. They're very popular. Can I? And the idea is, let me dress up like them, and we can come to the ring together just tonight because we're here like special guests." And I bullshitted my way through that one. And they're like, okay. So I went to the Misfits and I said, "Hey man, WCW really wants you guys." You know what I mean? I was out of my fucking mind. And they were like, and then we talked for about an hour and a half, and we got to know each other a bit. And they obviously saw I knew what I was talking about with my infatuation with punk rock. And Doyle said, "Well, here," and Doyle gave me his like shin guards for his boots and his armbands, and Jerry gave me the Misfits jacket with the studs, and then they taught me how to paint the skull.
Yeah.
And we just all were misfitted out, and we just walked into the arena, and the WCW office was just like, "What the fuck is that?" And I said, "Well, this is the Misfits, and that's it." And we just sat there, and everybody was marking out. Nobody could believe what I pulled off backstage, and everybody was all over the Misfits. And me and Doyle and Michael Graves were like, well, Michael was kind of starstruck, and Dr. Chad was the drummer. He was real quiet. He was just super fucking cool. Jerry Only was kind of like, and I love Jerry Only, but he was kind of like Madonna. He was everywhere talking to everybody, fucking voguing with everyone, you know. He was just like, he's a star, man. And that's his thing. And then me and Doyle were like, let's get the fuck out of here and let's go to play some PlayStation.
Nice.
And that's kind of how it happened. And we just came out on TV together, and it kind of really, really, really shocked the world, brother.
That's amazing, man. For sure.
And then we became friends, and the idea was for me to play in the band for an intro, like we would play one of the songs.
Oh, wow.
Like a minute. And but then Jerry Only said, no, I want to be a pro wrestler. So he went to the pot, and he convinced the office that it wasn't a good idea that we played, because it would take away from his seriousness as a pro wrestler. And there you go.
That's awesome.
I can't even say what is wrong with that whole sentence right there, you know? Like, no, that would take away from my actual pro wrestling career.
Right.
Okay, Jerry.
Yeah, he won't admit that now, but that's exactly what happened.
All right, man. So up next, what we're going to do
and then Doyle fell in love with Randy Savage's girl, and it all kind of fell apart.
Oh.
So yeah. Anyways, what?
Wow.
What's next?
I love
snuck that right in there.
I love how you just like slip that right in, like right at the very end.
Well, speaking of slipping things in, I think Gorgeous George was the type of chick that a lot of people wanted to slip things in. So.
Well, yeah, obviously.
But she was a sweetheart, good person.
Yeah. So up next, we're going to do a bit of word association. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say some names of some people in the business or some promotions. And what I'd like for you to do is just to say the first thing that comes to mind. And we're going to do this for 70 seconds. Are you ready?
Sure.
Awesome. Let's get it going.
Sin City Steve, 70 deadly seconds starts now.
Eddie Guerrero.
Hero.
Pero Aguayo.
Idol.
Jinsei Shinzaki.
Ouch.
Heavy metal.
The music or the wrestler?
The wrestler.
Dick.
Heavy metal. The music.
Dick.
Psychosis.
Awesome dude.
Super Crazy.
Another awesome dude. Ahead of his time.
Rey Mysterio.
Icon.
L.A. Park.
Watch the fuck out, brother.
The Insane Clown Posse.
Brothers for sure.
Sting. And lastly, but definitely not least, Sin Bodhi.
I can't just say one word.
Awesome.
I need to address it, if you don't mind.
Okay, actually,
Go right into it.
the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, there's no need to. If nobody even knows, nobody's even going to care, and it's such a trivial thing in my point of view. I know Sin. I consider him a coworker, and I consider him a friend. I've never had any issue with him. There was a situation about a name that he uses or claims to have ownership of. I was offered some work in an MMA company that wanted to start to promote wrestling shows, and they apparently registered that name. There was some confusion. He got upset. I, without asking, convinced the owner to change his name, change this, and to avoid any kind of disrespect or hurt feelings, because these guys have a lot of money, and if he had to get a lawyer and stuff like that. And I even told him, I don't want that for you, brother. So things just kind of blew out of proportion. I heard he did a podcast. I heard he started to say things about me on the podcast, like because of him, he lost a booking, and because of me, I don't know. I didn't listen to it. I just been told, and you can only believe 50% of the bullshit that you hear. Until he says it to my face, I'm not going to believe it. So I'm not going to listen to the interview. I've got nothing bad to say to him. I believe, just like me, just like you, just like anybody in this business, good, bad, or ugly, we all have our own egos and insecurities, and we all have the right to make a living doing this. So at this stage in the game, if I offended him for something that I was asked to do by somebody else, I apologize, because me personally, I wouldn't do that. And I'm not the kind of guy who's going to say something in an interview or a podcast or to somebody else without you present, because it's not fair that you can't respond. If it's true he's got heat with me, it's not a big deal. Meaning it's his situation, not mine. And I wish him continued success. And I hope that when I do see him, he can say the same things that he said on the podcast to my face. And we can find a way to make it all better.
That's fair.
All right.
That's fair. Thank you for sharing,
Yeah,
man.
thank you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So with that, we're going to get to our next segment, and it is the segment that comes toward the end of the interview. It is the opportunity where we call this the oh shit segment. Basically what this is an opportunity for you to tell us Vegas bad boys a story or a time inside the ring or outside the ring where you have encountered something so perplexing, something so out of left field that you were only left with the thoughts or words of, oh shit. Vampiro, please grace us with that story.
Oh man, I don't even know where to go. I don't know what to do. I don't really have any oh shits. I don't know. Do you have something? And give me say a word or something to make me think.
Wardrobe malfunction in the ring.
Not on me, but I remember one time when Jacques Rougeau suplexed Abdullah the Butcher, and Abdullah shit his pants in the ring.
We'd love to hear that story.
That's the story.
Shit, that was definitely oh shit, and probably a lot of it.
Yeah, it was oh shit, and he ran out of the ring because his pants were red and they were all brown in the back, so that was kind of fucked up.
That's literally an oh shit moment.
What about maybe an uncomfortable disagreement backstage with anybody that you would have never guessed was that kind of way?
Oh, man. And they're going to kill me. They're going to kill me for saying it. But fuck it. Lucha Underground, Evil East, and Jack Evans.
Oh, yes.
Dude, I am fucking telling you. And before I tell you the story, the hero of the day was Joey Ryan.
Wow.
Joey
really?
Ryan. If Joey Ryan wasn't there, I don't even want to think about what would have happened. Ooh. It was bad, dude. And fucking Joey Ryan saved the day.
Wow.
But Evie, in my opinion, she's a fiery Latina. Mm-hmm. she's a fiery Latina.
Yep.
And I love that about her. I love that she's she stands up, and I love that she has an opinion, and I love that she fight. And I don't mean that she argues. She will fucking fight you for if you don't want to listen to her, she'll make you listen. And it was incredible to watch her in Lucha Underground, because she would fucking fight for every inch. Sometimes she was wrong, sometimes she was right, but she had passion. And if you got her mad, oh man, bro, it was like a fucking hornet's nest. She wouldn't back down. She wouldn't back down. And I don't know what happened. I just heard the screaming. And because they were supposed to work together, and they were opponents. And I don't know if she didn't want to do a high spot, or she didn't want to do something, or Jack didn't. And Jack's pretty cool. Jack will do anything with anybody. I've known Jack forever. I've known Jack for about 20 years. Mm-hmm. And I've seen Jack knock I've seen him knock out guys bigger than me. I've seen him get in fights in Mexico with some of the boys, and Jack will not back down. He will fucking fight you. So I just see the table go flying and chairs, and everybody backs off, and I'm like, oh, that's someone's fighting. And you just heard Evie. She was fucking screaming, but she was in a boxing stance, not her hands up, but her hands like, right around her ribs there, right around her chest, ready to fucking throw. And Jack was like, you bitch, you motherfucking. She was like, fuck you. And it was nasty. And he would walk away, and he'd come right back and get into her face. It was like a hockey fight, that nudge, and the gloves are off. Mm-hmm. Like there's no turning back. And Jack, it was like a shark attack. He was closing his jaws on the prey. He was throwing a punch, I think. I doubt he was, but it looked like it, because he went flying in like a Superman punch to get back in her face, because he wanted to fucking kill her. And she was like, go ahead, you fucking pussy. We'll fight right. It was going to end bad. And as he was in the air, man, Joey Ryan came in the middle. And Joey walked Jack away, and I grabbed Evie right away, and we went into another room. And I just gave her space to breathe. And Joey Ryan saved the fucking day, boy, because I'm telling you, one more second and something really stupidly bad would have went down.
Wow. Damn.
Yeah, dude.
Well, that's pretty shit.
That is definitely
oh shit. And just going to give you a heads up, when we finally, or when I finally get these guys to let me do a year's worth of oh shits and we give out awards, you're top ranked. Putting that out there.
There you go. There you go.
Is it bad that the whole time you're telling me that Joey Ryan saved the day, I'm thinking of him with the lollipop in his mouth? Cool as fucking shit.
No, he was. It was panic time. I'm telling you. There was no fucking around. There was no lollipops. These two were gonna fucking kill each other.
Yeah.
He was It was like somebody was, you're drowning and you're going under for the last time. He reached in and pulled that person out. Joey saved the day.
Damn.
No doubt about that one.
That's a fucking awesome story.
Yeah.
Awesome story.
But then 10 minutes later, Evie and Jack are best friends.
Well, Vampiro, hey man, thank you, man, for so much for hanging out with us. You did your thing. You answered all our questions. It wasn't too bad, was it?
I don't know. Did you dudes enjoy it?
I did enjoy it.
Right. Well, thank you so much.
Let me ask you this: Are you ready for the opening of your Pro Wrestling Academy, which seems to be dated for the 1st of August?
Yeah, I'm extremely ready. There's still 10 million things to do. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I can see all the wrestling press, smart mark people, never even mentioned it, and that's perfect to me. Fuck them. Because when it becomes successful, and when I mean successful, when I change people's lives, then when they want to talk to me, they can go, they won't
themselves.
be able to.
I'll say it for
you. I'm just so excited to to see so many curious, motivated young people look to me for guidance. It's an amazing feeling, and I just can't wait to have that experience. I'm excited as hell, man.
Awesome. Do you have anything else you want to promote that you're going to be a part of that you maybe want someone to know outside of the school you have opening?
Yes.
Go ahead.
It's a little teaser.
Sure.
And this is a big part of the marketing, but it's not a work. Okay. The reason I'm having this school with classes for local, and there's 3 bigger courses that are going to be coming that I'll be doing for 6 weeks, 3 times a year, starting in 2020, is because I'm going to do some shows. I'm helping this company who wants to be involved in pro wrestling, as they have their own arena, they have residency, and they've asked me to see how to make this work. So if you are a student of the academy, you will be working right off the bat. You're not coming to train and then good luck, go find the promoters. If you apply yourself, you will be working on the shows that I will be running here in Las Vegas.
That's awesome.
Look at that.
Amazing. Awesome.
So you best, if I'm telling you now, I do it in Krav Maga all the time. If I see your attitude is wrong, even though you've paid, it doesn't matter to me. If you are not cut out for this and you have an attitude, you will be asked to leave. And that's unfortunately the way it is. And that's just the way I do things.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have your shit straight or go
Exactly.
somewhere else.
definitely.
Love it.
Yeah,
like
commit or get the fuck out kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
And let me ask you, your social media sites, the best way to reach you or get info, what are those?
Well, on Facebook, there's Vampiro, and you can't miss it.
Yeah.
That's me. That's my page, and
Yes.
it's got the school logo. The other one is Twitter is Vampiro_Vampiro, and on Instagram it's Vampiro Voodoo, VUDU.
Gotcha.
And then the school's got a page up, Vampiro Pro Wrestling Academy. That's got its own Facebook page. So
Yeah.
Awesome.
and I respond a lot. I read everything. Sometimes I don't respond at all, but believe me, if you take the time to send me a message, I read it.
That's
So-
amazing.
Appreciate it.
You got to give the fans the love, man.
You do.
Definitely.
Vampiro, thanks, man.
So thank you, brother.
All right. Vampiro, again, we appreciate it. We'll keep promoting the school and everything. And until then, that'll be it.
Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting.
Thank you so much for checking out that video. If you liked what we did there, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new here, slap that subscribe button and ring the bell. That way you can be a part of the notification squad. Follow us on social media at Vegas Bad Boys with a Z on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And until next time, we will see you in the next video.